welcome. After another busy, eventful week, it is good to be together, to enter into this safe space of a brief respite, a mini renewal, a needed break from our responsibilities, the pressures we live with, the stress that is ever present. We all need breaks and the recharge that they provide. Our days and our culture are actually filled with them. Coffee breaks, lunch breaks, bathroom breaks, vacation breaks. I'm taking a break. I need a break. Give a guy a break. All of the examples relate in some way to the alleviation of stress. Since last week, I've been thinking that so much of our lives is either governed by or accompanied by stress. We spend an enormous amount of time, energy, and resources combating stress, reducing stress, managing stress, and learning to live with stress. It affects everything we do and how we do it. Our work, our physical health, our mental health, our relationships, our leisure time, our eating and drinking habits, our medications, and our recreation. We all feel it, we all live with it, and we all need a break from it. So let us begin by taking a short break to breathe. Did you know that's where I was leading? At any rate, let's just pause for a couple of minutes and put ourselves in a different place, a meditative place. Let's take our favorite positions, our most comfortable positions. I always sit on the edge of a chair, trying to keep myself from falling asleep the moment I don't have to do something. We're going to plant our feet firmly on the ground, lay our hands in our laps, soften our gazes or close our eyes, and then go through our bodies to find those stress points and to try to release them or soften them as well. And we can do that from the crowns of our heads. You might want to just give it a little, I don't know, rub, I suppose, a little massage. Our foreheads, where those wrinkled brows accompany us so much of our days. Let us release our cheekbones and our jaws and our ears. I think we hold our jaws a lot. Let's roll our necks, or just think through a release of sorts. Our shoulders, our upper arms, our elbows, our forearms, our fingers. We can just wiggle them a little bit, move them around, and lay them again in our laps. Even drop them again in our laps if we like. And then moving again to the inside, down our throats, into our chests, following our digestive system and releasing our tummies, our diaphragms. Another place, I believe, of holding. We hold on to the tension in our tummies. I think that's why we have so many digestive issues. And some of the diseases are particularly related to Ashkenazic Jews, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and IBDs of any kind, irritable bowel syndromes, IBSs. So let us let those go. And our hips and our thighs and our knees that take so much stress. And our lower legs and our ankles, if we want to lift them up, we could do one at a time. holding onto the arms of a chair. We could do them both at one time, possibly. We can rock our feet back and forth, wiggle our toes. And let's just take a breath. Take a breath. And before we let it out, let's take another one. Almost like a catch breath. To see how far we can feel the breath going. Into all the nooks and crannies of our bodies. Into all the places we've softened or released. Or even discovered. And after we've held that breath for a couple of extra seconds, we release it. All at once or slowly. You might experiment with either, alternate, whatever works, just to stay with that breath. Stay with it, follow it. Follow it throughout your body. Follow its path, where it is and where you imagine it to be. Feel its fullness. Imagine its healing power. Hold on to it. Let it go. You might experiment with taking a breath through your nostrils, what that feels like. The air coming in, going down. You might sip air in through a straw. An imaginary straw. And let it out again through that straw. But as long as we're just thinking about the breath, we're keeping other thoughts from intruding. And the longer we do this, the more we might have intrusive thoughts. Let's acknowledge them and let them go. Acknowledge them and let them go. They will return later, or they won't. Either way, we don't need to leave this space. We can remain here, breathing. Breathing in. And breathing out. We might even imagine the breath going out to touch our computers, to send a message of, I'm thinking of you, to someone. We could follow that breath out until it's time to intake once again. And follow the breath inside our bodies. By doing this, we can be nowhere else but right here. And stay with the breath as it goes out. Don't ignore it just because it's leaving. Last week, we talked about interrupting ourselves as a technique to use in coping with stress. And it occurred to me that in Jewish tradition, Shabbat is the great interruption. I'd like to think that if we framed it more as a break from the intense pressures of our lives. We might have more takers. I suspect that the idea of Shabbat is too often presented as all of the things one cannot do, rather than all of the positives it offers and the very personal benefits it can engender. And that negative stance is rather old. It's not the way liberal Jews think of Shabbat. But when it is presented with that negative stance of on Shabbat, you don't do this and you don't do that, we may lose a sizable portion of those who might find it helpful, restorative, and even uplifting. It's a theory, my own, I admit. This week, I'm struck by the very close relationship between many meditation techniques and coping with stress techniques. For example, I am intrigued by a technique that instructs us to focus on our feet in much the same way that we usually focus on our breathing. It also has elements of the way in which we take inventory to release or soften our stress points. Dr. Judson A. Brewer, Director of Research and Innovation at the Mindfulness Center of Brown University, suggests take a moment to focus on your feet. You can do this standing or sitting with your feet on the ground. How do they feel? Are they warm or cold? Are they tingly, moist or dry? Wiggle your toes. Does that sound familiar? Feel your heels connecting with your shoes and the ground beneath you. Dr. Brewer explains, it's a different way to ground yourself. Anxiety tends to be in your chest and throat. Your feet are as peripheral as you get from your anxiety zones. Interesting approach. I hope the cutting of the lawn out the window is not disturbing our time together. We could certainly do a meditation with a special focus on our feet. In fact, there are walking meditations that do just that. In fact, I think I've shared some of them with you. How each foot feels striking the ground, how it moves through a step, how the motion feels as first one foot and then the other strikes the ground. The seeming tediousness of the detail we are directed to notice is a function of meditative technique. We do the same thing with our breathing. By focusing completely on something that is happening right now and upon which we stay focused for as long as we choose to meditate, which is in fact helped by noticing every detail, we are training our minds to be present to the current reality of our lives, whatever that may be. That is the goal, to be present, because this is when our lives are happening. My daughter was brought up short by her 3-year-old recently. The child kept saying adamantly, "Mommy, listen to me. Mommy, listen to me." My daughter thought she was listening, while simultaneously holding her 5-month-old baby and having her cell phone within reach. My daughter finally realized that her 3-year-old, her middle child, was asking for her full, undivided attention that he didn't feel he was sharing with anyone or anything else. We are in many ways a nation, perhaps a world, of distracted, multi-focused, multitasking, often frenzied individuals. We are doing everything but living in this present moment when we are actually alive in real time. All of the studies seem to indicate that when we can actually be present in the here and now, all kinds of good things happen. We are calmer, our blood pressure goes down, we are happier, our concentration improves, we can control pain more effectively. Memory is enhanced. We may be more patient and kind. There are also reports of increased creativity. I recognize that some of the claims may be too good to be true, but there is no question that meditation can help us manage our lives far more effectively. And thus follows another technique for coping with stress. Accept the present moment. Accepting the results of any endeavor doesn't mean giving up if things don't go our way. In fact, we will be more effective at pursuing change if we accept the situation that exists. Meditation teacher, Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams says, our anxiety comes from the desire to have things be different. There is going to be a tomorrow and a tomorrow after that. We need to be present to what is, regardless of the outcome we wanted. We may be severely disappointed. We may be disheartened and discouraged. But Reverend Williams says we prepare for life as it unfolds, not our ideal image of it. That is literally the only path forward. We prepare for life as it unfolds, not our ideal image of it. There is one more coping with stress technique that I would share with you. Given how much of our lives is beyond our control, it can help to turn to another realm altogether. The experts recommend that we connect with nature. I will share with you that with the onset of the pandemic and the closing of indoor exercise spaces, I went outside and became a walker in all weather. I would not hazard a guess at this point as to how many miles I have logged, but it has become a daily part of my life. And I have come to rely on walking as a source of well-being and even of orientation in the world. It doesn't have to be walking. It can be as simple as just going outside, watching the birds, noticing the breeze in the trees, the flowers growing, the way the sun shines at various times of the day, the way the gray clouds come in, a threatening rain. As Tara Parker Pope has reported, numerous studies support the notion that spending time in nature and walking on quiet, tree-lined paths can result in meaningful improvements to mental health and even physical changes to the brain. Nature walkers have quieter brains. Scans show less blood flow to the part of the brain associated with rumination. Some research shows that even looking at pictures of nature can improve your mood. Our brains, it seems, prefer green spaces. One small study found that exercisers exposed to the color green found it easier to exercise and were in a better mood than exercisers exposed to gray or red. I share this information in the spirit of possibility, not as an endorsement. I will share, however, that last night I observed a glorious sunset outside my window. I was so drawn to it that I went out onto the small balcony of my apartment and just stood there. I kind of breathed it in. It felt restorative and removed me for a moment from the preoccupations that had been weighing on my mind. It was a glorious sunset. So these are possibilities and suggestions to increase our meditative vocabulary and to help us find ways to break the cycles of stress, worry, and anxiety that trouble so many of us. So let us breathe for a few more minutes, and I invite you to continue breathing, or you may want to try focusing on your feet. At a later time when you're not sitting in front of your computer, You may want to go outside and think about the gifts of nature. For now, as a way of accepting the present, let us breathe. We resume our meditative positions, soften our eyes, and take that breath. And even as we breathe, we might bring to our minds the look of nature outside right now. How it might feel to breathe with nature. Nature breathes. The air is essential to any living thing, any living creature, any living being, any living entity. Breathe in. Fill up. And then we let go. I think there's a way of imagining as we are breathing in and out that we are part of nature. Perhaps we are sitting in a field. Perhaps we are sitting under a tree. Perhaps we are feeling the breeze and the warm sun. I hope you will continue the process of breathing. By way of conclusion, however, and hopefully inspiration for the week ahead, I would share with you this poem by Emily Dickinson. It is entitled, "Nature is what we see." Nature is what we see. The hill, the afternoon, squirrel, eclipse, the bumblebee. Nay, nature is heaven. Nature is what we hear. The bobolink, the sea, thunder, the cricket. Nay, nature is harmony. Nature is what we know, yet have no art to say. So impotent our wisdom is to her simplicity. I wish you a good week. I hope you will find some time to experiment with focusing on your feet. You will find time outside and just allow yourself to be lost a bit in the natural world. I wish you a time of acceptance and of feeling positive all over, throughout your body, mind and body. Stay well. Stay safe. God bless. See you next time.